Hello, everyone, and a heartfelt thank you for joining me here today as I open up and share one of those unforgettable personal stories from my life. My name is Michael Davis, and at the age of 65, I made a brave decision to step out of my comfort zone and explore the possibility of meeting someone new, a potential companion who could walk alongside me through the next beautiful chapter of my journey. What began as a hopeful and optimistic encounter, however, quickly unfolded into one of the strangest and most eye-opening experiences I have ever encountered in all my years. Let me give you a bit more background about myself, so you can fully understand where I was coming from. I retired about 5 years ago, after dedicating more than 3 decades of my life to teaching high school mathematics. Those years in the classroom were incredibly rewarding, shaping young minds and sharing my passion for numbers and logic. But now I enjoy a quieter existence in my cozy 2-bedroom condo located in the sunny, warm embrace of Florida. My only daughter, Sarah, lives far away across the country in bustling New York City, which means our visits are precious but infrequent. 3 years ago, I lost my beloved wife, and since that difficult time, my days have settled into a peaceful rhythm. Yes, peaceful, yet undeniably touched by a deep sense of loneliness that crept in over time. In my retirement, I filled my hours with activities that brought me joy and a sense of purpose. Tending to my lovely garden, where flowers bloomed vibrantly under the Florida sun, losing myself in good books that transported me to different worlds, and volunteering regularly at the local library, helping others discover the magic of reading. These pursuits were fulfilling in many ways, but there was always an underlying feeling that something important was missing, a shared connection, laughter echoing through the rooms, and the simple pleasure of creating new memories with someone special. After much thoughtful reflection, I concluded that it was finally time to seek companionship. I wasn't necessarily looking for marriage right away, but rather for a warm, genuine partner to spend meaningful days with, enjoying conversations, quiet walks, and all the little things that make life richer. One afternoon, my kind neighbor, Linda, who organizes wonderful community events in our area, approached me with a suggestion. She knew a retired nurse named Christine, who lived just a few blocks away, and thought we might hit it off beautifully, given our similar life stages and interests. With Linda's gentle encouragement and positive words, I gathered my courage and reached out. After a relatively short but pleasant phone conversation, we arranged to meet for coffee at a charming little cafe nearby. As the scheduled day drew closer, I noticed myself feeling unexpectedly nervous dating, or even the mere idea of putting myself out there again after so many years felt completely foreign and a bit intimidating, like venturing into uncharted territory. On the morning of our meeting, I carefully went through my closet multiple times, trying on different options until I settled on a crisp, clean white shirt paired with a blazer I hadn't worn in ages. It felt good to make an effort. I arrived at the cafe a full 15 minutes early, selected a peaceful seat by the large window overlooking the street, ordered a delicious cappuccino, and waited with a blend of hopeful anticipation and quiet apprehension swirling inside me. Then, right on time, Christine walked through the door. She carried herself with noticeable confidence and grace, dressed elegantly in a lovely light blue blouse, complemented by tasteful earrings. Her warm, inviting smile instantly helped ease some of my nerves as she approached the table. I stood up politely to greet her, and we exchanged friendly pleasantries before settling down comfortably. In the beginning, our conversation flowed smoothly and naturally, like a gentle stream. Christine opened up about her long and dedicated career as a nurse, sharing touching stories from her years in healthcare, and how she was now embracing retirement with open arms. She spoke lovingly about her son, who had moved to Chicago for his career, and expressed her genuine passion for cooking delicious meals at home. In return, I shared details from my own life, my fulfilling teaching career, my daughter's life. In New York, and my deep love for gardening, where I found peace watching plants grow and thrive. We quickly discovered several shared experiences, including our mutual appreciation for quiet, reflective moments and the unique challenges of adjusting to a slower pace after decades of structured, busy work lives. For quite some time, everything felt effortless and relaxing, and I found myself genuinely enjoying the dialogue. However, as our time together progressed, I noticed a subtle shift in Christine's tone and demeanor. She leaned forward slightly, her expression softening while also taking on a more serious and focused quality. She started by expressing how much she appreciated my openness and honesty, qualities she said she valued tremendously in people. Then, she transitioned into explaining that she had 4 very specific conditions or expectations for any potential relationship moving forward. At first, I found her directness somewhat refreshing, because after all, it's often better to be upfront and clear rather than leaving important matters unspoken or vague. But as she began detailing the first condition, my initial positive feelings started to shift noticeably. Christine proposed a 6-month trial period of living together, which, on its own, seemed somewhat unconventional, yet not entirely out of the realm of possibility. After all, spending extended time under the same roof could truly help 2 people learn about each other's daily habits, quirks, and compatibility before making any bigger commitments. Yet, the next part of her suggestion caught me entirely off guard. To proceed with this trial, she wanted me to deposit $20,000 into a shared account. She described this as a commitment deposit meant to show my sincerity and seriousness about building something real. She assured me that if things didn't work out, she would refund a fair, prorated portion based on the time we had spent together. As she explained this calmly, a complex wave of emotions washed over me. Surprise, confusion, disappointment, and a growing sense of unease. It wasn't solely about the specific dollar amount, even though $20,000 represented a meaningful sum. What truly troubled me on a deeper level was the underlying principle, the idea that sincerity and emotional investment needed to be proven through a financial transaction. It made the whole interaction feel strangely transactional, as if genuine connection could somehow be quantified in monetary terms. I worked hard to keep a neutral, polite expression on my face, but inside, my thoughts were racing rapidly. Part of me wanted to gently interrupt and seek clarification, but I held back, not wishing to appear rude or overly dismissive too soon. Instead, I nodded along and listened carefully, even as my mind tangled with questions. Was this her protective mechanism after past hurts? Perhaps she had experienced disappointment before and sought security. Still, the more I reflected internally, the less it aligned with my vision of how relationships should develop organically, through trust, mutual respect, shared values, and the natural unfolding of time spent together, discovering each other's hearts rather than starting with financial safeguards. I couldn't shake the discomfort that this request transformed what should have been a heartfelt human process into something resembling a business arrangement. Where was the simple joy of getting to know one another gradually, laughing over small things, appreciating quirks, and building something authentic? This wasn't at all the kind of companionship I had envisioned when I decided to re-enter the dating world after years of solitude. As Christine continued elaborating on her reasons with confidence, I tried to piece together what this revealed about her personality and past. Maybe she had been emotionally or financially wounded before, and this was her shield. Even so, it didn't ease my growing doubts. Relationships at our stage in life, I believe, should center around companionship, understanding, empathy, and emotional warmth, not lists of demands that feel more like contracts. Despite the increasing internal discomfort, I chose to remain respectful and let her continue without interruption. I had come with an open mind and wanted to give her the courtesy of fully expressing herself. But as she moved smoothly into describing her second condition, it became even harder to envision any future where these expectations could harmoniously align with my own personal values and hopes. Christine explained with clear enthusiasm that one of her lifelong dreams was to visit the beautiful islands of Hawaii, a place she had always associated with breathtaking scenery, tranquility, romance, and renewal. This wasn't going to be a short getaway. She envisioned an entire month-long trip filled with memorable experiences. She painted vivid pictures of sunset strolls along pristine beaches, exciting helicopter tours soaring over dramatic volcanoes, and professional photo shoots to capture every special moment as the beginning of a wonderful new chapter for us both. At first glance, the sentiment sounded lovely and romantic. I could certainly appreciate someone holding on to such inspiring dreams after years of hard work. A trip to Hawaii does evoke images of paradise and relaxation that many would cherish. Yet, as she continued, the full scope of her expectations became clearer and increasingly overwhelming. She expected me to cover every single expense associated with this extended vacation. She justified it by promising to handle all the detailed planning herself, from booking flights and luxurious accommodations to organizing activities, so I could simply relax and enjoy without any stress. While she spoke, I maintained a polite smile, but internally my thoughts were churning with practical concerns. A full month in Hawaii represented a substantial financial commitment, especially so early in getting to know someone. Beyond the money, the timing felt premature. We had barely spent a single afternoon together, and already she was outlining grand gestures that implied deep intimacy and long-term commitment. What stood out even more was her strong desire for a professional photo shoot during the trip, images that would symbolize our bond and serve as lasting visuals of our shared future. She described matching Hawaiian attire and candid, joyful snapshots. As touching as the idea might seem in theory, it felt entirely out of step with the early stage of our acquaintance. Relationships, at least in my experience and values, should grow naturally, step by step, without leaping ahead to elaborate. Final scenes before the story has truly begun. I wondered if this focus on grand, expensive plans reflected her personality after a lifetime of caring for others as a nurse and mother. Perhaps now it was her turn to be prioritized. I could respect that desire, but the expectation that I would solely fund such an extravagant adventure created an unbalanced dynamic. It left me feeling that the connection was being framed more through material provisions than through emotional compatibility and simple, everyday joys. By the time Christine transitioned into her third condition, I was mentally bracing myself, unsure of what might come next, but committed to hearing her out fully. This one centered again on finances, but in an even more direct way. She stated that if our trial living arrangement went smoothly, and we eventually decided to marry, she would expect complete control over all household finances. Specifically, she wanted me to turn over management of my retirement income to her capable hands. As a retired nurse, she explained, she possessed strong organizational skills and discipline that would ensure everything was handled efficiently and responsibly. Each month, she would provide me with a modest personal allowance while directing the rest toward shared needs, savings, and future planning. If I ever exceeded my allowance, I would compensate by taking on extra household chores like cleaning or cooking. Her tone remained practical and serious, leaving no doubt about her sincerity. At first, I almost wondered if this was some kind of light-hearted joke, but it clearly wasn't. The idea of surrendering full control over my hard-earned retirement savings to someone I had only just met felt not only unreasonable, but profoundly unsettling and even infantilizing. After decades of careful financial stewardship through my teaching career, this arrangement went against my core beliefs in partnership, collaboration, autonomy, and mutual trust. Marriage or cohabitation at this age should involve teamwork, where strengths complement each other without one person dominating key areas like finances. It raised questions in my mind about the kind of dynamic she truly desired, perhaps one centered on security and control for herself. Whatever the root, it simply did not resonate with the equal, respectful companionship I sought. As Christine moved on to her fourth and final condition, I could sense my patience beginning to thin, though I remained courteous and attentive on the surface. She explained that, regardless of whether we lived together or married, she would require us to maintain completely separate bedrooms. After more than a decade of independent living following her divorce, she had grown deeply accustomed to her own personal space. Sharing a room or bed, she said, would disturb her sleep patterns and make her feel too crowded or restricted. This, she emphasized, was non-negotiable and essential for preserving her sense of boundaries and independence. While separate bedrooms aren't unheard of among older couples and can offer practical benefits, in the broader context of all her previous conditions, it further amplified my concerns. The overall picture emerging was one of rigid, transactional demands with little emphasis on flexibility, emotional closeness, or compromise. Each point seemed structured primarily to protect and benefit her position, with minimal consideration for my feelings, needs, or vision of a balanced relationship. When Christine finally concluded outlining her 4 conditions, I sat there processing everything. I had entered this meeting with genuine hope for a sincere connection, someone to share quiet moments, mutual respect, laughter, and the everyday joys of retirement life. Instead, I felt as though I had been presented with a detailed business proposal rather than an invitation to heartfelt companionship. After a lifetime of hard work, teaching, raising a family, and navigating loss, I yearned for peace, authenticity, kindness, trust, and understanding in my later years. While I could intellectually acknowledge that her conditions might stem from past experiences, hurts, or a strong need for security, they ultimately felt disconnected from the warmth and organic growth I was seeking. She looked at me expectantly, waiting for my response. After taking a thoughtful pause to gather my thoughts, I thanked her sincerely for her honesty and openness in sharing exactly what she wanted. Then, as gently and kindly as possible, I explained that I didn't believe I could meet or align with her expectations. Her expression shifted briefly to surprise before settling into a polite smile. She nodded understandingly without pressing the issue further. I made a graceful excuse about a prior appointment, and we wrapped up the conversation amicably. As I walked out of the cafe into the bright Florida sunshine, a profound mix of relief and disappointment washed over me. Relief because I had honored my own values and stepped away from a situation that didn't feel right in my heart. Disappointment because the hopeful connection I had imagined had proven so different from reality. Back at home that afternoon, I sat on my peaceful porch with a warm cup of tea, replaying the entire encounter in my mind. The more I reflected, the clearer it became that Christine and I simply were not compatible. Her conditions, while perhaps perfectly reasonable from her unique perspective shaped by her own life journey, were not something I could embrace without fundamentally compromising my sense of self, my principles, and the peaceful retirement I had worked so hard to build. This experience also prompted deeper reflection on the realities of seeking relationships later in life. Many of us carry emotional scars from past chapters' losses, disappointments, and lessons learned, and it's completely natural to want safeguards. Yet I firmly believe that the strongest, most fulfilling connections are rooted in mutual respect, genuine trust, shared values, humility, and a willingness to grow together organically rather than through rigid rules or financial prerequisites. For anyone else venturing into this world at a similar stage, My sincere advice remains this. Know your own worth deeply. Trust your instincts when something feels off. Prioritize your inner peace. And never settle for anything less than a relationship that truly nourishes your heart and soul. Solitude, I've come to appreciate more than ever, is far preferable to a mismatched connection that could bring unnecessary complications. Life is too precious to compromise on what brings real joy and contentment. Thank you once again for listening to my story. I hope sharing it resonates with some of you, and perhaps offers a bit of perspective or even a smile of recognition. If you've had your own experiences in this arena, feel free to share in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, take care and keep embracing life with an open yet discerning heart.